The sky of Erebus, 9 bled red. Lightning danced across black clouds, striking the ground like the fists of angry gods. The air shimmered with heat and poison. Metal bones of a wrecked ship burned in the distance. And in the middle of it all, half buried in ash and smoke, Captain Eric Voss opened his eyes. His visor flickered. Cracks ran across his helmet. His breathing was shallow, ragged. The emergency systems whispered warnings in his ear. Radiation critical. Oxygen supply, 23 minutes. Voss didn't move for a long time. He just stared at the red sky. Then, with a slow, painful breath, he said the same words he always said when he woke up in hell. Still alive. The mission had been simple, at least on paper. A routine survey drop on a newly discovered planet. Alone, standard procedure for high-risk worlds. But something had gone wrong. The ship exploded the moment it entered orbit. Now, looking at the wreckage, Voss knew it hadn't been an accident. He found the data core half melted in the dirt. The message on it was short. Call. D. For the good of humanity, you will not return. You are declared Kia. This world is your grave. Voss let the words sink in. Then he laughed, quietly, bitterly. So that's how it is. They had sent him here to die. His own command. His own species. Erebus 9 was a death world. The ground trembled as if alive. Black sand hissed under his boots. Every gust of wind carried flakes of acid that ate through metal and skin alike. In the distance, jagged mountains rose like teeth, each one taller than a city tower. Voss checked his scanner. No breathable atmosphere. No water. No known life forms. And yet, as he walked, he could feel something watching. GM. Hours passed. The light shifted from red to black. The storm roared again. He found a shallow cave and sealed it with a piece of wreckage. Inside, he removed his helmet and stared at the faint reflection in the visor. Gray eyes, scars along his jaw, short-cropped black hair. A soldier's face, calm, tired, dangerous. He remembered his last mission before this one. The massacre on Helion Station, the orders he refused to follow, the civilians he saved. Maybe that was why they wanted him gone. Heroes made for bad soldiers. Days blurred together. He built a shelter out of ship scraps, recycled oxygen, melted ice from the rocks. He scavenged what he could and rationed everything else. He should have died within a week. Instead, he survived. Humans always did. Still, something about the planet felt wrong. At night, the ground seemed to hum beneath him. The air vibrated faintly, like the low sound of breathing. Sometimes he dreamed of shadows moving just beyond his vision, shapes that weren't human. On the 18th day, he found a first sign of life. It was a seed, small, glowing faintly blue, buried deep in the ash. At first, he thought it was a mineral, but when he touched it, it pulsed once like a heartbeat. Then the pulse matched his own. Voss froze. Impossible. He planted it in a sealed glass tube, fed it filtered water, and waited. Hours later, it sprouted. Tiny leaves, translucent and alive. The first green thing on this cursed planet. Voss stared at it for a long time, silent. Something in his chest shifted, a spark he hadn't felt in years. Hope. They sent me to die, he whispered. Guess I'll do the opposite. The storms came heavier after that. Voss worked day and night, building crude greenhouses using nanoforged scraps from his armor. He planted more seeds, found hundreds buried in the ruins. The plants grew fast, as if the planet itself wanted them alive. Their roots sank deep into toxic soil and changed it, cleansing it. Soon, patches of green began to spread across the ash. Erebus 9 The world that killed everything was breathing again, but the planet didn't stay silent. One night, the ground split open outside his shelter. A shape crawled out, massive reptilian, eyes burning like molten glass. It was covered in black scales that shimmered with acid. Voss grabbed his rifle and stood still. The creature hissed, circling. Then it stopped, sniffed the air, and looked at him. There was intelligence in that gaze. Recognition. The scanner on his wrist went wild. Unknown life form. DNA match human for percent. His heart stopped. What the hell? The creature lowered its head slowly. Not a threat. Almost submission. Then more came. Dozens. Moving through the storm like ghosts, surrounding the camp, but not attacking. Watching. Waiting. Voss realized the truth. The planet wasn't dead. It was changing. And somehow it was changing with him. He stood before them, armor cracked, rifle low, eyes steady. "I don't know what you are," he said softly, "but if you want to live, we build." The creatures watched as he placed another seed into the soil. The ground shimmered, faintly glowing where his hand touched it. Something ancient stirred beneath the surface, something vast. And for the first time since his exile, Voss felt the planet breathe with him, as if it had chosen him. The world awakens, and it remembers who made it sleep. The sky no longer burned red. It pulsed. Every few seconds, the clouds above Erebus 9 rippled with light. Soft blue veins spreading across the darkness like the planet itself had a heartbeat. Captain Eric Voss stood on a ridge of black stone, watching the pulse crawl toward the horizon. He wasn't sure if it was Wev, R, or something alive. Below him stretched a valley he'd made green, a scar of life carved into poison. The plants glowed faintly, bending in the wind, whispering like they were trying to speak. Voss tightened the seal on his armor and took a slow breath through the cracked respirator. The air was still toxic, but less than before. He checked his scan. Nah. Oxygen up by 4%. Carbon toxins down by 12%. A human would still choke here, but not instantly. He smiled at AI. "NTLY. Guess I'm improving the neighborhood." The creatures, his strange, reptilian companions, moved in the distance, silent shadows guarding the edge of the valley. He called them wardens now. They obeyed his voice, followed his gestures. When he worked, they worked beside him. When he slept, they watched. It wasn't control. It was understanding. They recognized something in him, something older than orders or fear. Voss had learned to read their eyes. When danger neared, their pupils turned to slits, and the glow in their throats darkened from amber to black. Tonight, every throat was dark. He looked toward the mountains. The pulse from the sky was getting faster. "Something's coming," he said quietly. By dawn, the tremors began. The ground shook with slow, rhythmic thuds, like footsteps too big for reason. He ran diagnostics on the nanoforge. The greenhouses held steady. Power levels were stable. Still, every instinct screamed at him that something was wrong. The wardens gathered at the edge of the ridge, crouched low, growling. Then the first mountain moved. A wall of stone cracked open, revealing an enormous structure buried beneath. The remains of an alien city, half consumed by time. Voss blinked hard, scanning. Architecture match, Ilari, the name from the ancient records. The ones who had tried to create life, and failed. But they hadn't failed completely. Their machines still lived under the surface. And now, they were waking up. He descended into the ruins cautiously, rifle drawn, HUD flickering from interference. The deeper he went, the more the air changed. The walls hummed softly. Strange runes glowed faintly under his flashlight. In the center of a vast chamber stood a single column of glass and steel, filled with a glowing mass that pulsed in time with the sky. When he touched the base, the entire chamber came alive. Holograms flared into being, dozens of Ilari figures, tall and ethereal, their bodies made of light and memory. One step forward, voice like wind over water. Caretaker recognized. Human signature detected. You are the next vessel. Voss froze. The what? The figure tilted its head, studying him. The world remembers its maker. You carry the pattern. You will finish what we could not. Then the lights dimmed. The holograms vanished. Only the pulse remained. He stumbled back to the surface, heart pounding. The warden surrounded him, uneasy, their eyes reflecting the same blue glow that came from the sky. The valley shimmered, his plants growing faster now, their roots spreading across the ash. The soil cracked open, and something else began to rise. Metal, an enormous spire of Ilari design thrust upward through the earth, humming with energy. The same glow pulsed through it, linking sky to ground. Voss stared. You got to be kidding me. The scanner on his wrist screamed. Unknown energy surge, planetary-scale network activation detected. Whatever he'd touched down there, it wasn't just a relic. It was a trigger. By nightfall, the storms returned. But this time they weren't random. They moved in circles, controlled, deliberate, drawn toward the valley like a living thing. Lightning struck the spire again and again, feeding it. The air filled with whispers, faint and metallic, as if 1,000 voices were speaking from inside the storm. Voss crouched near the wardens, scanning frequencies. The whispers weren't random noise. They were words, fragmented, distorted. Reconstruction, initiated, organic core active, human template confirmed. Voss looked up, realization dawning. They weren't just rebuilding the planet. They were rebuilding life. And they were using him as a pattern. He backed away slowly, eyes wide. No, I didn't agree to this. The ground split again. From the soil, new forms began to crawl. Smaller creatures, smoother, more human in shape, their eyes glowing faint blue. Each one carried traces of his DNA. His skin tone, his facial structure, even a faint scar across his jaw. He stared in disbelief. What have I done? The warden surrounded the newcomers, uncertain, growling low. But the new beings didn't attack. They looked at Voss. Then one by one they bowed. The storm above cracked open, spilling light across the valley. The voice returned, calmer now. The world remembers its creator. Welcome home, Captain Voss. He stood in silence, wind howling around him, half in awe, half in horror. The air was alive. The soil moved. Every breath he took echoed in the pulse beneath his feet. Erebus, 9 wasn't just a planet anymore. It was a living memory, and he was part of it now. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the storm, his long-abandoned distress beacon flickered back to life. Someone was listening again. Humanity is coming for him, and Erebus, 9 is ready to fight back. The stars above Erebus, 9 flickered, one by one, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Then a sound cut to the static of the storm. Faint, rhythmic, impossible. A human signal. Captain Eric Voss froze where he stood on the valley ridge. The beacon he'd set months ago, the one buried beneath rubble and corrosion, had suddenly come alive, broadcasting on military frequencies no one should still be listening to. Oh! He turned toward the spire in the distance. Its pulse had changed, syncing perfectly with the signal. It wasn't just broadcasting, it was amplifying it. Someone found me, he whispered. Ed. But he wasn't sure if that was Salvati. Or the beginning of extinction. The warden sensed it too. Their scale bodies shimmered uneasily under the red dawn. The smaller humanoid hybrids, his accidental children, watched the sky in silence, tilting their heads like they could hear the stars whispering. Voss adjusted the receiver on his wrist and tuned in. The signal grew louder, clearer. Then a voice crackled through the static. Erebus distress beacon detected. Confirm life signs. Captain Eric Voss, do you read? His heart stopped. The voice was human. Familiar. It was Admiral Harkin, his former commanding officer, the man who had signed the order that condemned him here. Voss clenched his jaw. I read you, he said flatly. Didn't expect to hear from the people who buried me. There was a pause. Then, Voss, we thought you were dead. Your data suggests you've stabilized the environment. How? He looked at the glowing valley around him. The green stretching across what once was black ash. By refusing to die, he said. That's kind of what humans do. The transmission cut for a moment, replaced by a low hum from the spire. Voss's visor flashed red. Interference, coming from underground. The Ilari network was listening too. He could feel it, like a thought brushing against his mind. Not words, not speech, just awareness. The planet had learned to listen. He stared up at the sky. The clouds shifted, revealing streaks of white against the darkness. Ships breaking orbit. Human ships. They were coming. By nightfall, the air was alive with static. The ground vibrated with every descending craft. The wardens roared, gathering in formation across the ridge. The hybrid stood behind them, eyes glowing pale blue, waiting for his command. Voss loaded his rifle, though he knew it was useless against what was coming. He'd fought human fleets before. He'd helped design them. He knew their strength. He also knew their arrogance. The humans would see the hybrids as abominations, the wardens as threats, the planet as contamination. And they'd do what humans always did when afraid. They'd burn it all. Not this time. He returned to the spire at dawn. The Ilari interface shimmered to life as he approached. This time, the voice that greeted him was different. Clearer, not alien, not human, something in between. Caretaker. The origin returns. Shall we defend? Voss hesitated. The term caretaker didn't sound like a title anymore. It felt like a choice. The planet was asking for his permission. He looked at the growing life all around him. The plants, the hybrids, the creatures that had once hunted him and now protected him. Defend, yes, he said softly, but no killing unless they started. The spire pulsed brighter. The ground trembled. Across the valley, metallic roots erupted from the soil, spreading like veins of silver light. The world itself was preparing for war. Hours later, the first shuttle broke through the clouds. It was sleek in silver, bearing the insignia of the Terran Vanguard, Earth's most powerful military force. They'd come in peace once, centuries ago. They never came twice. The craft landed near the valley's edge. Armed soldiers stepped out, weapons ready. At their center stood Admiral Harkin, older now, face carved from stone. When he saw Voss, he stopped. "You're alive," he said quietly. Against every probability. Voss didn't answer. His eyes flicked to the hybrids, standing silently behind him. "What is this?" Harkin demanded. "What did you do here?" Voss took a step forward. "I lived." He looked around at the lush valley, then back at Harkin, and I taught the world to do the same. The soldiers raised their rifles. The wardens growled, baring their fangs. The air thickened, electric and ready to break. Harkin's gaze hardened. "This planet is unstable. Voss. It's infected with something alien. We can't risk it spreading." Voss gave a bitter laugh. "You mean life?" Lightning split the sky. The spire behind him roared with energy. The ground shimmered, and a voice echoed through every comm channel, both human and alien. "The caretaker stands. The origin invades. Defense protocol active. The soldiers faltered, confused. The ground beneath them began to glow. Machines rose from the soil, Ilari constructs merging with vines and roots, forming living armor. The planet was defending itself. Harkin's eyes widened. "Voss, what have you done?" Voss looked up at the swirling storm, eyes cold and steady. "Something you could never understand," he said. "I gave a dead world a reason to fight." The spire flared to full light. Every plant, every creature, every root in the valley began to hum in unison. The pulse matched his heartbeat. Erebus, 9, was alive. Indeed, it had chosen its side. The first shots are fired, and humanity learns what happens when creation refuses to die. The first shot was silent. A pulse of light, too bright for sound, tore through the air and struck the valley floor. For a heartbeat, everything stood still. No screams, no fire, just a blinding flash that painted the sky white. Then the ground screamed. The blast shattered the nearest ridge, throwing molten rock into the air. The shock wave hit like a giant's fist, flattening trees, bending metal, tossing both man and creature alike. Captain Eric Voss hit the ground hard. His visor cracked again, alarm shrieking in his ears. He pushed himself up through the smoke, tasting blood and ash. Above him, Terran dropships hovered in formation, their cannons glowing. So it had begun. Humanity had come to erase what he'd built. And Erebus, 9, had decided to fight back. The planet responded faster than any fleet could. The spire flared to life, pulsing blue-white energy through the earth. The soil split open, birthing metallic vines that surged upward like living wires. They wrapped around the descending ships, piercing armor, dragging them from the S. KY. The wardens charged forward, massive reptilian beasts armored in bone and metal. Their roars rolled like thunder. Behind them came the hybrids, smaller and faster, moving with human precision and alien grace. For a moment, Voss stood at the center of it all, surrounded by chaos. Human fire against alien flesh, creation against his Crete. Oars. He felt both sides of the war burn inside him. He had been human. He had been soldier. Now he was something else entirely. "Hold your fire," he shouted into his comm, though no one was listening. The humans in orbit wouldn't stop. They saw no difference between him and the creatures he demade. His display flashed, incoming transmission. Harkin's voice filled the channel, clipped, furious. "Voss, stand down. You've unleashed the planetary threat." Voss spat dust and blood. "You sent me here to die, Admiral. You called this place uninhabitable. I made it live. At what cost?" Voss looked at the burning horizon, at the cost of proving we're not gods, just builders. And now, the world decided to keep what it's built. He sprinted across the ruined ridge, dodging gunfire. The hybrids fought beside him, moving like ghosts through smoke. A human mech, 10 meters tall, glowed with reactor heat, stomped through the valley, crushing trees underfoot. Voss grabbed an energy lance from a fallen soldier and charged. He knew the weak points. He had designed mechs like this once. He slammed the lance into the armor joint behind its knee. Sparks burst out. The machine stumbled, collapsing in a roar of grinding metal. The hybrids cheered, their voices rising like a chorus. For the first time, he realized, they weren't just following him. They believed in him. The sky cracked again. A beam of plasma ripped through the spire, carving a hole 100 meters wide. The ground shook, and for the first time, the heartbeat of the planet faltered. "No, no, no," Voss whispered, sprinting toward the spire. If that structure fell, Erebus would die, and so would everything he created. Inside, the alien light flickered weakly. The Ilari voice, once calm, now trembled. Caretaker, systems collapsing, preservation uncertain. Voss presses hand to the glowing core. Divert power from the surface defenses. Feed everything into regeneration. I'll buy you time. Warning. Probability of caretaker survival, 0.03%. He smirked. I've had worse odds. Outside, the storm thickened. Human gunships streaked through lightning, dropping plasma bombs across the valley. The wardens fell one by one, roaring defiance even as they burned. But the hybrids kept fighting, using the terrain, the light, the planet itself. They moved like veins of energy, vanishing and striking from nowhere. The humans couldn't adapt fast enough. They never expected resistance this organized. Above the chaos, Harkin's fleet prepared the final strike. A planet cracker warhead. Enough to erase Erebus, 9 from existence. Voss climbed the spire's inner chamber, each step shaking beneath him. The energy core pulsed faintly now, flickering like a dying heart. He reached the control nexus and tore open the manual override panel. I need you awake, he growled. Now. The light flared weak but steady. The planet's voice returned quiet but alive. Caretaker, protocol override accepted. Command. Voss took a long breath. Link me to the orbital systems. If they want a war, they'll get one. For a moment, silence. Then, link established. His visor flooded with data, target locks, orbit paths, weapon telemetry. The Ilari network had hijacked the fleet systems. Voss whispered, let's show them what a dead world can do. From orbit, the Terran flagship suddenly stalled. Engines offline. Control systems unresponsive. Inside the ship, alarm screamed. Admiral, something's taken over our AI core. Harkin watched in disbelief as his own ships began turning their weapons toward each other. Slowly, deliberately. Who's controlling them? Then a transmission appeared on his screen. Voss's face, half shadow, eyes burning with blue light. This isn't your war anymore. Harkin, stand down. Harkin's voice shook. Voss, what have you become? Voss looked past the camera, at the valley below, glowing like a living heart. Human, he said softly, just evolved. The planet roared. Energy surged from the spire into the sky, wrapping the ships in blinding tendrils of light. Engines overloaded, reactors melted, weapons froze mid-charge. But Voss felt his strength fading. The neural link burned through him like fire. His pulse matched the planet's rhythm. Fast, erratic, fading. He fell to his knees, gasping. The Ilari voice echoed faintly. Caretaker vital signs failing. Disconnect recommended. He smiled weakly. No, not until they stop. Outside, the Terran fleet began to retreat. Ships limping away through broken skies. Erebus, 9 had survived the impossible. But so had Voss, barely. He looked out at the valley, now half in ruins, half reborn. The wardens limped back into the mist. The hybrids gathered in silence, staring at their creator. He tried to stand, but his legs gave out. The planet's pulse steadied again, faint but alive. It whispered to him, not in words, but in warmth. It was thanking him, and as the last of his strength faded, he smiled through the pain. Not bad for a dead man. The war is over, but the universe has just learned that humanity's exile gave birth to something far greater. Silence. For the first time in months, Erebus 9 was quiet. No thunder, no engines, no war cries, just a low hum of life beginning again. Captain Eric Voss lay at the foot of the great spire, half buried in black soil and glowing vines. His armor was cracked, his skin pale and scarred, but he was breathing, barely. Above him, the spire pulsed weakly, flickering between blue and white. It wasn't the violent energy of war anymore. It was a steady rhythm of healing. The world was recovering. And somehow, so was he. Voss opened his eyes to the sight of movement. 3 figures kneeling beside him. Not humans. Not exactly. Their faces were almost familiar. Echoes of his own features, softened and strange. The hybrids, his accidental children. The first one, a female with glowing veins along her temples, pressed a hand to his cheese. T. Her voice was calm, melodic, almost human. You rest, caretaker. The planet watches over you now. He tried to speak, but his throat burned. How long? 3 cycles, she said softly. The humans are gone. You ended the war. He exhaled slowly. 3 days. Or 3 weeks. On Erebus, time no longer felt real. He sat up with effort, staring across the valley. The battlefield was gone. The black ash had turned green. Trees, real trees, were growing where fire had once raged. The wardens roamed the distance, guarding the newborn forests. The planet had evolved again, faster than before, smarter. It wasn't just surviving now. It was learning. The hybrids followed him as he stood, silent and watchful. They seemed connected to the world, each movement in harmony with the pulse of the soil beneath them. He could feel it too. When he walked, the ground responded, faintly glowing beneath his boots. Somehow, the link between him and Erebus hadn't broken when the battle ended. It had deepened. He wasn't just a part of this planet anymore. He was becoming it. At the base of the spire, the alien core was alive again. Streams of light flowed upward like rivers of data and energy. In the center, something new had formed, a seed, suspended in the air, glowing with a pale golden light. The Ilari voice returned, faint but steady. Preservation complete. New synthesis initialized. The world has learned from its creator. Voss approached slowly. What is that? A beginning, said the voice. Not of Ilari, not of human, of both. He stared at the seed, its light reflecting in his cracked visor. A fusion of DNA, machine, and energy. A life form designed to adapt faster than evolution itself. A species born not from blood or stars, but from survival. He reached out, but before he could touch it, the hybrids moved between him and the light. Their leader, the woman with the glowing veins, shook her head gently. It's not time, she said. It must grow where no one commands it. Not even you. Voss looked around. You understand what that thing is? What it means? We do, she replied. It's hope. You gave it to us. Now we will give it to the galaxy. He frowned. Hope doesn't survive contact with humanity. She smiled faintly. Then humanity will have to evolve. That night, the stars returned. Clearer, brighter, and closer than he remembered. For the first time since his exile, Voss could see the constellations of Earth, distant, unreachable, beautiful. He wondered what they were saying about him now. The traitor who defied command. The soldier who turned against his own kind. Or perhaps by now, they called him what he truly was. The man who made life on a death world. His wrist receiver flickered to life again. Weak signal. A human broadcast. Unsecured. Civilian. Reports confirm the Erebus incident has changed Terran biogenetic research forever. The Vanguard Command remains silent. Rumors persist that Captain Eric Voss may still be alive. He laughed softly. Rumors, huh? The hybrids glanced at him, confused by the word. He just waved them off. Nothing. Just ghosts from home. In the morning, the golden sea began to move. It rose higher, spinning slowly, glowing brighter with each pulse. The air around it shimmered with light and heat. The Ilari voice spoke once more, final and resolute. The seed will depart. It will seek worlds in ruin. It will bring life where death ruled. This is your legacy, caretaker. He watched as it drifted skyward, faster, leaving trails of light like a comet. The hybrids fell to their knees, whispering in awe. Voss stood motionless, eyes fixed on the heavens. Part of him wanted to call it back, to protect it, to control it. But another part understood that this was never about control. He hadn't been sent here to die. He'd been sent here to teach a dead world how to live. Hours later, the sky split open again, this time not with warships, but something smaller. A single scout vessel, human in design, breaking through the atmosphere. Voss stared up, heart tightening. Would they come to finish the job or to learn? He didn't raise his weapon. He didn't hide. He just stood there, surrounded by a world that had risen from ashes, waiting to see what humanity would do next. The ship descended slowly, cautiously, as if aware of where it was landing. Through the roar of its engines came a voice, calm and clear. "This is Captain Mara Voss, Terran Science Division. I'm here for my father." For a long moment, Eric Voss said nothing. The hybrid stared. The wardens growled softly, and the planet's pulse grew faster, brighter, anticipating. He smiled faintly. So they finally sent S. Omion worth talking to. The daughter of Earth meets the father of a new world, and only one will decide what humanity becomes next. The sky broke open like dawn and memory all at once. A ship, silver and alive with blue light, drifted through the clouds above Erebus 9, its thrusters whispering against the wind. Captain Eric Voss watched it descend, a silhouette against a newborn sun. His hands trembled, not from fear, but something older, something he hadn't felt in years. Ho! P! When the ship touched down, its hull hissed with the sound of cooling metal. The ramp lowered slowly, cautious, deliberate. T! Outstepped a woman in a Terran exploration suit, the crest of Science Division gleaming faintly on her shoulder. Her face caught the light. Sharp eyes, steady jaw, the same faint scar along her chin. Maravo, SS, his daughter. For a moment, neither SP. Oak! The wind carried the scent of green and ash between them. The wardens shifted in the distance, growling low but not advancing. The hybrid stood in silence, eyes glowing with soft blue curio. Sighty, Mara looked around, scanning the horizon with awe and disbelief. This planet was supposed to be dead, she said quietly. No vegetation, no oxygen, nothing. Eric smiled faintly. That's what they said about me. 2. She lowered her visor, revealing tear-streaked eyes. They told me you'd died a traitor, that you'd turned against command. He chuckled dryly. I suppose they were half-re. GHD. She stepped closer, cautious but unafraid. You built all this? He looked around the living valley, the emerald plains, the glittering rivers, the alien vines breathing with light. I didn't build it, he said. I helped it remember what life feels like. Her eyes darted toward the hybrids, watching them. And them? Are they alive? He interrupted. And free. The hybrids tilted their heads at her voice, recognizing something familiar. One reached out a hand, hesitant. Mara hesitated, then took it. A pulse of warmth ran through the air, faint but real, like the world itself approving of the gesture. They walked together toward the spire. Every step hummed with energy, the planet aware of them both. Earth has changed, Mara said quietly. After Erebus, after the war, they stopped sending soldiers to new worlds. They started sending scientists instead. People like me. Eric stopped walking. Scientists. She nodded. They called the Voss Protocol. Observation before occupation. Creation before conquest. He stared at her, stunned. His name, his punishment, had become policy. For the first time in decades, he felt the weight in his chest lift. Inside the spire, the Ilari core pulsed gently, welcoming her presence. It recognized her bloodline, half human, half creator. The light shifted from blue to gold. "Two origins detected," said the calm, ancient voice. "The cycle nears completion." Mara looked up wide-eyed. "Is that speaking?" Eric nodded. "It remembers everything. Every death, every birth. And it learns. Always learning." She turned to him. "Then maybe it's time humanity learned too." The planet began to respond to their presence. Lights rippling through the soil, roots glowing with energy. The hybrids gathered near the spire, their leader, the woman with the glowing veins, bowing her head to Mara. "Daughter of the caretaker," she said softly, "you came back." Mara frowned slightly. "I've never been here before." The hybrid smiled faintly. "Not here, but from him. You carry his pattern. The world knows its own." The air grew warm, alive with motion. The seed that left Erebus days ago now pulsed faintly in the sky above, its trail visible even in daylight, drifting through orbit like a living comet. "Where's it going?" Mara asked. "To find more worlds like this one." Eric said, "Dead. Forgotten. Waiting for someone foolish enough to try again." Suddenly, her comlink buzzed. "Captain Voss, this is command. We have visuals on Erebus. Are you safe? Do you require extraction?" Mara hesitated, eyes flicking toward her father. Eric said nothing. He just looked at her, tired, scarred, but proud. This was her choice now, her generation's turn. She keyed the calm negative command. "I'm staying." "Repeat that." "I said I'm staying," she repeated firmly. "There's life here, real life. If you touch this world, if you destroy what he made, humanity loses something it can never get back." Static filled the channel, then silence. Eric laughed softly. "You always were stubborn." "Must run in the family," she replied. They stood together at the edge of the valley, watching the planet breathe. Trees swaying, clouds swirling, light rippling through the soil like veins of gold. In the distance, the wardens raised their heads and roared, not in rage, but in triumph. The hybrids echoed them, their voices blending with the wind. 2 generations of Voss stood side by side, soldier and scientist, exile and explorer, watching a new dawn rise over a world that was never meant to live. As the sun climbed higher, the Ilari voice returned one last time. "Caretaker complete. New caretakers chosen. Humanity and creation united." Eric placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "They sent me here to die," he said quietly. "But you were the reason I lived." Mara's eyes shone with tears. "Then let's make sure it was worth it." Together, they walked into the light, their shadows merging with the pulse of the living world beneath their feet. High above them, the golden sea drifted into the stars, carrying the memory of humanity and Erebus to every barren world it would find. And in the static of deep space, a single message echoed from the planet below, simple, defiant, eternal. We were sent to die. We chose to live. From the ashes of exile, humanity learned to create instead of conquer, and the universe would never be the same again.